on our agenda, despite what was written in the public letter or the newsletter, is a transitional shelter program presentation. This is not a proposal. So at this time, we'd like to welcome those from Church at the Park.
Mayor and City Councilors, my name is DJ Vincent, and it is an honor to be with you tonight and to see so many folks out who love their city and are seeking its well-being. And that's what we've been seeking to do at Church at the Park since 2007, is create tables of love and acceptance for those who are unsheltered. And it is our dream to see an end to unsheltered homelessness here in Marion, Polk County.
At this time, I don't mean to interrupt. If those of you would like to turn around and look at the screen, you may do so at this time. Feel free to move your chairs. Careful of your neighbors, unless you don't like them.
They have to sit.
Everybody will have to sit though, please. So please.
Because we can't see.
Mr. Vincent, go ahead.
Oh, very good. So the reality is the experience.
Just one sec while we get people. I thought they were all situated.
Probably be easier to put the projector up there. There's no screen.
Thank you, though. We appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and begin. Go ahead, Mr. Vincent.
Yeah, so the experience of homelessness is affecting many of us, and in the state of Oregon, we are under an emergency declaration around this. And so Church of the Park has these three priorities that we function under. The first one is we're going to be collaborative in how we navigate with those experiencing homelessness and other agencies. We provide emergency sheltering, and then we desire workforce development for those we work with. This started for us when we were offering just outreach services, and there was this gentleman, Joe, on the right, who would bring his little shelter with him to the outreach day center each day, and we realized that was his sense of safety. That was where he kept his items, and he needed a safer place in which to operate. We started in 2001 with the city of Salem beginning to offer micro shelter communities, and the three priorities for those are that they would be, first of all, safe, second, that they would be sanitary spaces, and then they would be supported to next steps. And in a space like that, Joe was able to stop pulling that shelter around. He was able to apply for senior and disability services, and he is housed today because of an approach that we discovered, with his help. The benefits of sheltering like this: it allows guests to have ownership of their space, to safely store their belongings, offers that sense of dignity, is possible for partners and families to be sheltered together, and then it is very flexible when it comes to any kind of pandemic or illness because it is non-congregant sheltering. Everybody isn't in just one space. A key to the services we provide is relationship. So if homelessness starts with broken relationship, then to heal that problem, we need to introduce healthy relationship. And so we need 24/7 staffing. We provide a case manager for every person. We partner with and contract with medical and behavioral health services at the 3 sites we operate right now, 2 times a week. We have our safety team members go through the state training around nonviolent de-escalation and redirection for guests in our site and those who come around the sites that we operate. We have a huge focus on connecting people to whatever benefits they may be entitled to as they work towards their own self-sufficiency. So some of those sanitary services that are very important is providing laundry service on site, as well as showers and bathrooms, so that people can be ready for school, ready for work. That 24/7 staffing, there is always someone at the reception area, because the sites that we operate, the 3 in Salem, it's not a come in anyone who wants to. They're just for residents and then the partners who are helping provide services to those residents. So we always have someone at reception. This is a visual of the site at Center Street across from Safeway. And last year, we were able to help 592 folks in those different locations. 64% of those moved on to positive destination, including permanent housing, transitional housing, and then other residential projects. One concern folks often have is this is going to cause a big drain on emergency response or ambulance services. And actually, when you provide someone shelter, provide them with the food they need, get them connected to a primary care doctor, those needs actually drop way down for the folks we've been tracking in partnership with Salem PD and Salem Fire Department. This is just a picture of a woman we cared for who is experiencing some severe behavioral health challenges, but again, with safe and supported shelter, we were able to get her into, again, long-term permanent supported housing. So the one thing that we try to continue to learn and do better and better as Church of the Park is community relationships, like we're experiencing tonight. And so we've been active around the sites in Salem, around the site in Dallas, doing kind of conversations with neighbors. And then we do both digital listening and sharing sessions, as well as in-person. We did quite a few in-person sessions there in Monmouth, as well as going to any church, neighborhood, or business group that would invite us to come and share about what the services are and how people might understand them better. We did just open this month the site at Turner Road, and I bring that up because it's the exact shelter models that we're proposing for Dallas and would be potentially proposing for other sites in Polk County. They're 40-foot trailers, and they're basically little dormitories on wheels. They have a bathroom shower connected to every one, and it could either be 2 different bedrooms, or in this case, 4 different bedrooms for these 18 to 24-year-old individuals. And at that site right now on Turner Road, we're offering additional counseling, education, and housing mentorship services, as they're in a perfect time of life to benefit from that workforce development opportunity. And very similar in size would be the proposal for the neighboring community down the street here, 40 individual beds. Great partnership with Polk Family Community Outreach around what the intake process would be. And then Arches Rapid Rehousing Support has 50 housing vouchers for rural Polk County that they're looking to put into play. And these are some of the numbers that validated the applying for sheltering in rural Polk County. It needed to meet certain criteria put forth by the state connected to the point in time count. And that was 91 unsheltered individuals interviewed in just one day, connected to a January count. And these are just some other visuals of what a community can look like. Again, it's not a tent-based camp. It is wood-built structures that would be proposed. So thank you so much for the time to offer some information. We have printed information for anybody who would want it tonight who's here. So thank you so much.
If you don't mind, I think council has some questions for you. Please raise your hand and we'll wait for everybody to turn around.
Okay, okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please quiet down so we can continue. The floor recognizes Counselor Hoteling.
Based on just comments on Facebook and things, I don't know if you have a stat offhand, but I'm curious about, a lot of people equate homelessness or houselessness with drug addiction. And I'm just curious if you have any stats on that within the county or within your places.
Yeah, so one of the ways that a stat I do have, so at our adult site last year, we served 246 people. And so we did connect 34 of those folks to a detox and recovery service. And so that would be about 14% of the folks needed to go through, a detox for the addiction that they had.
And a follow-up question, the other percentage, did they maybe refuse to go or they just didn't need that service?
So what I do know is they didn't take the service.
Okay.
I can dig deeper into.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other council member have a question? Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Jerovic?
What is the average length of stay at one of your transitional shelters?
Yeah, very good. So at the family site, we can serve usually 30 to 40 households at a time. And through connecting them with a greater team of resources, they usually transition between 3 and 6 months into one of those permanent destinations. At our adult site at Center Street, which has been open for 2 years, the average stay is closer to 6 to 9 months. And many of those falling in the 9-month category of the ones who have transitioned to a permanent spot.
And then second question is, what happens to those folks that maybe don't want to participate in transitioning or getting into services? What happens with those folks?
Yeah, our relationship with a guest starts with an intake process the first day with us on reading through what all the community expectations are. Then the second day, they sit down with the health and behavioral health provider with their case manager and talk about what's our game plan and just get that initial 30-day game plan. So that starts a process, and then we do a once-a-week health check on how their pod is going and are we meeting expectations. And then every month they have to recertify with us that they have an active game plan towards health, housing, and a job. And so in that process, except for cases of violence, we create transition plans with folks where they are understanding, hey, it's not working out here, you're not here very much, we don't know what your plan is. So we start asking them, what's your alternative? Are you gonna go to a different shelter? Are you actually reconnecting with family and we're not tracking with you on that? Or you just wanna make your own plan? And if we don't recertify, then they usually have about 30 days to figure it out with us. And many times we'll provide transportation to that other thing they want to do that's not us, but that may not be permanent housing. And again, the only way we're moving to an exit without a game plan may involve violence or law enforcement.
Yes, Counselor Jerovic?
And then I guess the other questions I think people have is just with hygiene, like how do you look, so you have, laundry and showers and facilities such as that, but how do you keep like the site from becoming tangled with stuff?
Yes, I would love to have anyone in this room and any of the counselors come to a tour of our sites. We offer them on a weekly basis, and it is through, positive encouragement by our staff. And, we will encourage guests to keep their area clean. We'll do cleaning with them. Essentially, we know this is a huge priority for the folks to be able to move into permanent housing. So we see it as a big part of what our program does, is build understanding and connection with the importance of sanitation. And so our sites, you know, today, they don't need spiffed up for you to come and see that they're very clean.
Okay. And then I think the other question a lot of people are concerned with is just security. You know, if people are maybe living on the streets, if they draw other street people there, if it becomes like a collection site of miscellaneous houseless people, or how do you maintain the people that should be there are there and the others are not?
Yes, so this is again where, love for folks to come and drive around our sites, even ask maybe neighbors of the sites, are we doing what we say we'll do? So our safety includes, again, a designated area for folks. We have digital accountability on site. No one's like sitting behind a camera, but if there is any incident, then we go back and look at it, see how we can talk through and coach for a better solution. The staff is there. Then our safety team is committed to a defined area around the site that in partnership with the neighbors, so that as soon as someone comes into the area, we would have those positive conversations and redirection that this just isn't gonna work for you to come here for resources or to camp here.
I have a question.
We're not taking questions right now from the audience. With the,
Are we done later?
that's what public comments is for, yes.
Oh, good.
I guess it's up to him.
A couple questions, though. I know that the state right now is backing this with funding, and with the 40 micro shelters that you already have, and then now with the 40-foot trailers going on. What happens, though, when the state is no longer providing money? Where's the sustainability in the funding?
Yeah, that's the right question. So we have the 2 years of funding on the first proposed project here in rural Polk County, and then there is a priority for sheltering and housing in this current state administration. And so we anticipate, you know, support for a while, but we have just received what's called programmatic payment support from Pacific Source through our Medicaid provider. So we can provide a basic level of staffing, case management, peer supports, groups on site, even after if the state funding were to go away. So we would have existing infrastructure, and then we would have basic support services staffing. And so we would then manage the intake process to have people ready to operate with that level of staffing, that this is a safe and appropriate place for you.
You mentioned infrastructure. What is the toll on the current cities right now, current infrastructure, meaning the water, the sewer, the electricity? Is it taking a lot from the town itself?
Josh, you wanna, our operations director is behind me. In terms of each of the sites has needed power, water, sewer. And again, we would be looking at any site to see what is the accessibility of those resources.
So let's say that there's a site that has no current sewer hookup or anything to that. Is it the city's responsibility, or is it your responsibility to have it hooked up, paid for, and to keep it maintained?
Very good. So Church at the Park has operated as a partner provider willing to meet the needs of, at this time, the city of Salem on their desire that their citizens have said the unsheltered crisis is our #1 concern. Please act, City of Salem. So City of Salem has had the mandate from their folks to do something, and we've said, if you set up the infrastructure, we will run the sites. And so in Dallas, the state has said, this is a state emergency. We'll pay for the infrastructure to go in if a provider will run the site.
So it doesn't necessarily have to go on the city to pay for the infrastructure to make it viable?
I would say basically every site is gonna be a unique braiding of funding and priorities that are available.
Okay. Yes, Counselor Jarvis.
Since you are starting so many of these sites, do you have capacity, I guess, to continue to grow? Because you're now at what, 5 sites across Marion and Polk County?
Currently 4,
4, okay.
yes.
Okay. So I guess my question is, do you have capacity to do additional work? Because
Yeah.
I know we're not the only kids in the playground for Polk and Marion County, so.
Yeah, so, my passion is, I love to see cities thrive. I don't want to see unsheltered people in pain and dying on the streets. I performed 16 funerals just last year. And so my passion is to train staff who can do this work well. And so, my focus, the training team like Josh, our focus is to hire and train staff who can do this work at an excellent level. And so far, we've been able to exceed the hopes and expectations we've had with the 3 sites in Salem, seeing people move from homelessness to find health resources, jobs, and housing.
Yes, Counselor Sickles.
So you keep referring to rural Polk County. Are you specifically talking about Falls City?
I mean, I'm here in Falls City because we are seeking to serve the needs of all of rural Polk County. And I'm very aware, I worked in the Salem School District for 12 years. And so I'm very aware of how the McKinney-Vento program works and looks at the needs of unhoused students. And I'm very aware that Falls City comes up in conversations as having students who are unhoused in this community. And so that need grabs my attention, and it probably drove me to say, yes, we'll want to do a presentation in Falls City and let them know what sheltering resources we're going to be providing, and that we are open to setting up more sites.
So the follow-up to that is, I assume then in order to move forward with that, you would do some kind of a feasibility study to see how Falls City would match with what you're proposing. I guess my biggest concern is, and a lot of the concern of the community is, we don't have our own police protection in Falls City. We rely on Polk County Sheriff's Department for police protection. The concern is that if you set one of these people up, it puts a stress on law enforcement. And so I guess the concern is how do we address that problem of law enforcement when you're dealing with a brand new group of, say, 40 people, 40 families coming in that are in addition to what we already have in Falls City.
I love what you're saying there, because I think if I'm sitting in your seat, I would be saying, if we do something, I would want it to be for the good and health of Falls City. And what I would say about law enforcement is, if we're serving folks who already exist in the sphere of a community, are those folks going to be more likely to engage in criminality if they're in a safe, sanitary, and supported environment with provided health care, food, positive relationship, and someone encouraging them to get an education, job, and house? So are they more likely to engage in criminality in this scenario, or in a scenario where they're unsupported in the same community?
That's a fair question. I guess my response to that is, how are you going to guarantee that we're not going to import people because all of a sudden there's a opening in a place like Falls City, so I'm going to come from Salem or Dallas or wherever and try to take advantage of these services that are now being produced in Falls City.
So I can only answer what we've done and proposed for Dallas is a screening process that demands the recognition of, either attending school or having some connection with either family member or residency in the vicinity.
Okay. Thank you.
couple more questions from council, and then if it's okay with you, I would like to open it up to the public for questions, if you're okay with that.
I'm okay, sure.
Okay. Counselor Hoteling?
You threw out the DTPS or whatever those initials are for could you, and then Counselor Jurvik asked about security and you encouraged us to go to the site. Some people don't know what that training is here in this room, and so if you could go into a little more detail about, just the training and like who takes those trainings normally and a little more into the security.
Are you okay if Josh answers that for us?
Oh, you bet.
I can answer it, but he directs the program.
Sure.
Thank you for the question and thank you for having us today. So it's the Department of Public Safety and Standards training. And so this is the same training, same process that like a police or another officer, whether it's through corrections, whether it be through security or police. They have different standards because they have different expectations, but it's the same program, if that makes sense. So same licensing program that has multiple levels, right? So a police officer is going to have the highest level, correction officers, there's different levels of expectations in those standards of training. And so there is a standards of training, there are thorough background checks, and there are expectations for how a person would conduct themselves in the public. And so that licensure is all part of that same program through the Department of Standards of Training. Does that make sense? Okay. And so that training is multiple day training where they go, they learn how we're de-escalating things, how we're actually working inside the community, how we respond to certain things, how we work well with other law enforcement agencies, how we support in different crises. And so they're doing a lot of training just around how do we manage people and crisis. And so they do that together in that space. And then in our spaces, they're afforded even more training on nonviolent communication, on de-escalation tactics, and how do we work with people to help them move to a better space. And so those are kind of all the trainings that we provide for what we call our safety team. And so the safety team is this team that supports the site. They're the ones doing the perimeters. They're the ones making sure that people aren't setting up camps, or if they have set up camps, that we can get them to the next location that's more appropriate for them. They're making sure that the site is safe and supported. They're the group that also works if we need a call for an ambulance. So at our center street, we work with those that are very high, have a lot more health conditions, chronic health conditions and different things. So when an ambulance comes on site, this person's there to support, to make sure that the space is safe and secure for everyone, that those people can do their job and don't have anything else that they're worried about. And so they're really there for the safety and the support of both public around us in the area, our staff, and then also those that support through safety, through police, and through ambulance. So they're really kind of in charge of all those pieces.
Counselor Jurvik?
I think the last question / comment is, I think some of the issues are happening because the original think about it, or would you be open to, it was basically 4 singles or 2 families. And now someone said, oh, it's 40, and I'm like, oh, the site can afford 40. So I think that's maybe some of the concern. So if you look at a town like Falls City, would you come in with a recommendation of, boy, you really need family support, or you need singles or something like that as well?
Yeah, you want me to answer that one, or you want it?
Whatever you think. So we haven't had a 40-person site until we started looking at what was the potential for Rolfo County to serve in a centralized place like Dallas. So if we were having a conversation with Falls City, we would be looking at what need are we trying to address. Are we seeking to engage young adults who are phasing out of school district support that has been there for them even though they're unsheltered? Are we looking at folks who are 55 plus, essentially, folks who are at a critical age? Are we looking at families? And then we would actually work with, those who are carrying the data in this area to say, what do we need to try to meet this need, and really come alongside those folks. So there isn't just we're just looking, regardless of the community size, to try to have 40 shelter beds. Right now, tonight, we have 132 family beds to serve 40 families in Salem. And that still has us with a wait list. And so those are two different communities.
Thank you.
I just have one follow-up question, then I'm gonna go out. When I was looking at your case management, the ratio is 40-1. As a former special education teacher, where I case managed 45 kiddos, but I gotta see them for 4 years. Number one, what's the turnover rate for your case managers? And then, number two, how are they able to meet those 40 individuals with just one person case managing them? Because relationships are super key to any therapy or any plan that you put into place.
Good question. So part of the ratio that we're looking at, that 40-1, is also families. And so we have 3 case managers when we talk about the 130 people, but a lot of that, almost usually over half of our family site is actually children. And so we're really talking about 40 families at the most. And so people compared to families is a little bit different, because when we're case managing for the family. And so that kind of skews that a little bit. At our other site, we also have 3 case managers for 80, so it is closer to the 20. But we also have 2 peer support specialists. And so when we talk about case management, this is a person that's helping create the plan and say, okay, what are those, what is the end goal? What are the steps that we have to do to get there? And the peer support specialists are saying, let's get there together. And so they're not doing that day to day, like, let's go fill out this form, let's go fill out this application, let's go do these things. They're focused on, here's the end goal, here's the milestones, and then they hand it off to the peer support specialists who are actually doing the work alongside of. So it's a little bit different when we talk about case managers versus peer support, but it does get a lot closer to a 15-1 ratio when you start breaking it out those ways.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Counselor Hoteling?
If the Dallas site were to happen,
Yeah.
would Fall City be a close enough proximity that it could potentially serve some of our citizens?
Yeah, so in our agreement, and then with what we've been doing, again, as what DJ was talking about, is we're looking at communities to say, what's the need? Not let's just make something happen. So what's the need? And so for us, we had conversations with Polk County, and so we're looking at what's the need of the county. And so the Dallas location would be servicing people from here. Is there more? There's obviously more people that are unsheltered in the county than what we could have at one site. And so are we open to having more conversations around what could support other communities? Yes. And so, again, it's all through conversation and what the need of the area is, whether it's county versus city related.